Commander is the most popular format amongst Magic the Gathering players. My playgroup and I have spent almost every Tuesday night for the past several years slinging spells. With so many games under our belt, it would be easy for things to get stale, but we've managed to still keep things spicy by adopting additional game formats, deck building restrictions, and activities I'm going to share with you today. Here are 7 ways to spice up Commander. The first 2 options are game formats you can overlay on top of a typical game of Commander. Both of these options are useful for including additional players when you don't have enough for a second pod, while counteracting extended playtimes for bigger games by having built-in objectives. First up is 5-point. To start, set up a game where 5 players are in a circle. For each person, the 2 people directly across from them are their enemies, with the goal being to knock them out or to win the game entirely. Directly to their left and right are their allies. They both have a mutual enemy with the player, but also are an ally to one of their enemies. This creates an unusual political dynamic, where making deals and promises can lead to game states more like a Mexican standoff than a card game, while making it possible to share a victory with your allies. Next up is Bang. At the start of a game with at least 5, but up to 8 players, everyone is randomly assigned a role from a list of possibilities. While playing in paper, my playgroup shuffles a group of basic lands to represent the roles, and in digital, one of my playgroup's members, Brian Koplek, has created a bot for Discord that privately messages each person with their role. Outside of one exception, players are meant to keep their roles hidden and only reveal once they're knocked out. Every game starts with a sheriff and a deputy. The sheriff will reveal themselves at the start of a game, start with 10 additional life, and a planes in play. The sheriff will win if all of the outlaws are defeated. Along with the sheriff is the deputy. The deputy's goal is to protect the sheriff and will win along with the sheriff. Opposing the sheriff and deputy are the outlaws, who will win if the sheriff is eliminated. Rounding out the game is the beggar, who will win if they are eliminated first. If another player is eliminated first, the beggar will transition into that player's role. If there are 6 or more players, there's the additional role of the renegade, who wins if half of all of the players are eliminated, meaning their role can shift throughout the game depending on who's ahead. Because the roles are hidden, there's a dynamic mystery of trying to figure out who's what role while trying to make sure the beggar isn't eliminated first. The next couple of options are creative deck building restrictions to inspire innovation. Magic can be an expensive game not only financially, but also for time investment, and proxies can be an option for testing out a new deck or exploring an interesting design space without having to invest heavily. While these deck building options are more accessible while using proxies, be sure to communicate with your players because they can be controversial. If you want to use these options in paper, setting a budget restriction could help facilitate some of these options. Easy to implement restrictions for deck building could be picking a commander with less than 100 decks on EDHREC, building using only commons and uncommons, or rolling a random color and archetype on EDH Randomizer by Jeramy England. Be sure to communicate with players about expectations around power level, and try not to overlap on commanders or themes for a better play experience. For a more advanced option, Partner Smash Up tests your ability to build a cohesive deck. Start by having a player pick between any 2 partner commanders without any of them overlapping. Each player then builds a deck around each partner separately, totaling 50 cards while including some staples like Command Tower and Arcane Signet. Finally, take turns randomly assigning 1 partner to each player, and then have them draft a second partner. Then sling spells with your smashed up decks. It can be difficult to meld the decks cohesively, but by focusing on broad themes like Voltron, Aristocrats, Go Wide, Card Draw, and other themes, it makes it easier to create synergy between the 2 halves. Finally, you could run a deck building Secret Santa with your playgroup. Have each player create a list of themes and archetypes they enjoy and dislike, then randomly assign each participant someone else who they have to build a deck for based off their info. Then exchange these decks or deck lists with each other and see what surprises are in store. This option works best with a steady group of players who know each other's taste. Commander might be the most popular form of Magic, but that doesn't mean it has to be stale. Hopefully with these game formats, deck building restrictions, and other activities, you can spice up your games for you and your playgroup. I'll see you in the next one.